Welcome to Hindu Sanskruti with Vaishali Shah. I'm your host, Harleen Jabal. Namaskar, Vaishali.
Namaskar, Harleen.
Today's episode's topic is about Hindu cultural values. Let's begin with what is known as the Hindu culture and how is it different from the others?
Well, we have to define Hindu culture as something which is very unique in the world. We have a very typical way of doing things in the temple, in our lifestyle, in our relationship. We are very close to nature. All our festivals and traditions we have is in line with our nature, the seasons. So, and this is something which is not there in any other country. So that is how we can define that Hindu culture is different, unique, and also more close to the nature.
And then when it comes to lifestyle, then what is a typical Hindu lifestyle? What are you doing?
Uh, yes, initially the way I defined that Hindu or Vedic or Sanatan Dharma is not religion, it's a way of life. So it's something which is to do with our daily life. For example, how we pray in the morning, how we eat, what we eat, how we dress up. We have certain traditions and customs, maybe related to marriage, related to the childbirth, or related to the death of a family member. So these are the things which makes us unique and different. So whatever we want to do on a daily basis or a yearly basis, those things are called lifestyle.
Then what stands out when you take the Sanatan Dharma versus the other religions or other faiths? What stands out for you? What makes you different in that one?
First of all, our belief system, like as I explained earlier, that our principles, what we follow about our scriptures and ritualistic aspect and our daily core, that's how we are different. Then, of course, the second thing is our traditions. Uh, we have traditions of staying with our parents, which is very much criticized by the Western world. They think that once you are grown up, you have to leave the house and be on your own. Whereas we think that once we are grown up, we have to take care of our parents. So, to take care of the parents, we need to live together. So, it's not about being independent and staying away, but it's about being together, staying with the family, supporting the family in at the time of crisis. So that is a concept which we can say it's very unique to India. Then something like our what we eat, like our food, our most of our food in any part of India is vegetarian, whereas most of the world is mostly meat eating and other non-vegetarian food they eat. Then there is something called our customs. Like customs means when a child is born, we have to have namkaran vidhi. Then we have something to do with education, that when he goes to the school for the first time. So those are part of 16 sanskar, 16 sanskar, which we call it as.
Okay.
So that is clearly defined from the time the child is conceived to the time the man dies and taken to the taken for the last rites. So those things are clearly defined in the scriptures and they are being still followed almost in the same way it used to be followed thousands of years back. This is something which is very unique and very much to do with our Hindu culture.
Going back to, you made a point about vegetarianism. Is Sanatan Dharma pure vegetarian? And if it is, then what is the term?
In India and even in other part of the world, we were vegetarian for thousands of years, purely vegetarian. Almost 100 years till 100 years back, 90% of India's population was vegetarian, and 10% was not. And even then, those 10% were also not eating like on a daily basis. So it is very sad that we are turning towards the other side now, and the youth is not able to understand the importance of vegetarian food. But if you see the uh, lifestyle and cultural values, so mostly Brahmins and Banya or Vaishya community, we say, they never used to eat. It was completely forbidden for them. Kshatriya, that means those who are warriors who used to go out in the field and all, they were allowed when they are out on the field and when they don't have any other choice. Uh, the last or the most important whom I consider is the Shudra community. So even in Shudra community, only those who were into extreme physical task, only they were allowed. But then too, none of the Shudras, even there earlier times, would actually like meat eating. Apart from those four category of people, there were other tribes and other people who used to eat, but they were always considered as outcast because it was never acceptable for mainstream Hindu society. So you can imagine that how much emphasis is being given in the Hindu culture.
So, coming to now the fun part, the Hindu festivals are very well known around the world, or maybe not. Maybe you can correct me there. Tell me a little bit more about your festivals and how do you celebrate them?
Well, this is a known fact that India has the maximum number of festivals to celebrate. And if you just follow the lifestyle, every month would have at least 2 festivals easily. But then our festivals are not just mere celebrations. We are celebrating relationship like Raksha Bandhan. We are celebrating the birth of a god like Janmashtami or Ram Navami. Then we are celebrating seasons, like we have harvesting seasons, so Vasant Panchami and Lori. So those festivals are typical about seasons. Then we have New Year's. For example, we have Gudi Padwa, which is Chaitra mahine se jo New Year chalu hota. Then we have Diwali, where the Vikram Savant, Vikram calendar ends and the New Year starts. So that way, you can imagine that we have so many reasons. I have given you only 4 right now, but there are many other reasons, like we celebrate our Guru's Jayanti or a birthmark or a, you know. So that way we have many reasons why we celebrate this thing. For example, Holi. Everyone loves this color of the festival of color, and but people don't know why we celebrate. So there are so many various reasons why we celebrate Holi, but it is so scientific, whether what we eat or whether we what do in the festival, that is what makes this festival unique.
From festivals, let's go down to rituals and traditions. Explain more there.
I mentioned about 16 sanskaras, which is about right from the time the child is conceived to the time the death is taken to the smashan. So those 16 steps which are clearly defined in the scriptures, or maybe it's part of our customs or for many thousand years. So when the child is born, we do Nam Karan Vidhi. Then when he eats for the first time after 6 months, the first grain which is given has a vidhi to do it in a way.
Okay.
Then when he goes to the school for the first time, then marriage. So and then the death. So these all our customs are related to all these 16 steps of life. And apart from that, then we have other rituals like when we go to temple or you go for the yatra. So then we have certain rituals to be done while performing yatra. When we step out of the house for a longer journey, we have a small ritual to do. Then when we want to start a business or bring a new vehicle, we do a little bit of puja to welcome it in our life. So you can imagine that every step we have, whether buying a new house, a new office, new adventure, going out for an expedition, having a religious ceremony at home, having a ceremony related to any other occasions. So we have rituals in every aspect of life, and that is what we can consider it as our traditions.
So, what about when it comes to worshipping? You mentioned earlier that Hindu culture also is immersed in nature. Nature is very integral. So, what is nature worshipping?
Yes, we have been kind of criticized for a long time being nature worshipper, that we worship ocean, we worship sun. But people have failed to understand that this is only one small part of worshipping. The reason we see divine in the nature is because after all, we are controlled by nature. We cannot control rain, we cannot control sunlight, we cannot control drought, flooding, nothing. We don't do it, and we have no capability of doing it. So then when you cannot counter the force, you be with the force. And that is the reason we try to please the nature through all the nature worshipping aspects, like doing performing yagna, or doing puja of Navgraha, which is like 9 planets. Then we do many small yag. Then we perform yag to get rain. So these kind of things are there where we try to please the nature so that we get the blessings of the nature. But it's not about considering nature as the supreme entity and then after that there is nothing. No. So nature worshipping is important, is not because we want to show that we are weak, but of course we want to acknowledge the power of nature, let that force be with us, and then we worship and we ensure that the force comes into our life as a more of a positive way. For example, rain, as I told you, if it is timely and if it is in the right quantity, it's a blessing. But if it is more quantity untimely and if you start flooding, you can't do anything about it. So that is called worshipping nature.
And then what about the animal worshipping? Are you also sort of worshipping the animals, or is that also a misconcept?
Yes, again, it's a very big misconcept that we worship animal. But again, we don't worship them. It's just that we recognize the importance of animals into our lives. For example, cow. Now, cow worshipping, I mean, people wonder that the whole Western world want to eat cow, beef, and then we worship. But frankly, we have not understood the importance of cow. That is the reason. Then we have Nag Panchami, where we consider Nag as a snake as a devta. So people think, oh, what is there great about snakes? But but the Nag or the snake is extremely important for farming. It's very important part of farming. That's the reason we consider them as auspicious. Then we worship bull. But in farming, there is nothing stronger than bull. Earlier, there were no tractors. The animals were taking care of our farming. So bull was very important animal for us. So obviously, when they are important, we want to recognize them. We want to give them importance, and that is how the concept of animal worshipping came.
But coming down to the cow, why is the cow considered sacred in Sanatan Dharam, and what are the benefits of that?
Let's see the practical aspect of cow. Cow is the only animal which inhales oxygen and exhales oxygen. Now, have you heard of this anywhere? No. Any other animal? No, nobody does that. Cow is most important in farming. For example, cow dung is the best manure, eco-friendly, much better than fertilizers and other chemical-based things which you added to your crops. It's the best anti-repellent. It is best way to keep the moisture in the house, because if you see the traditional houses in India, they used to put cow dung on the wall, and I always used to wonder and I used to find it very yuck that, you know, how can they do it? But then when I studied, I realized that cow dung has so much of properties that it is the best thing to use for as a fuel while cooking in the kitchen. So you can imagine only one thing, only cow, something like cow dung is so useful. Then cow urine was used in many Ayurvedic medicines. And like I can give you the example, if you want to lose 5 kilo on a week, you just have 2 spoons of cow urine in the morning and you do lose it. And I have tried it. So I know how beneficial it is. Then cow milk. You'll be surprised that cow milk is considered the best milk out of all the milk. Of course, now the way cow is treated in the Western world using machines and to get the milk out of it, it's very cruel. But traditionally in India, cow was kept in the house as a family member, and only 2 of her organ were used to remove the milk which was extra after giving it to the calf. So you can imagine that we were not cruel to the animal, we were considering them as the part of the family, and at the same time we were getting the benefit out of it. One more thing, ghee, which is butter. Cow ghee is the only element on this earth which has no bacteria. So if you try to see it under microscope, you will understand that cow ghee is the purest form, and that is the reason in all the Vedic yagnas or pujas or havans or anything like that, we were using cow ghee. And the best thing about cow ghee is that you don't put on weight, it has no fat, and it rather burns the fat out of your body. So now you can imagine for the important aspect of cow. Another aspect is religious aspect. We consider that what 33 crore devta is reside in the cow. Then presence of cow helps in reducing the toxic level of the body. In today's time, a lot of scientists are doing this research that if somebody has got cancer, which is like too high toxic in your body, if you want to reduce it, you be in the presence of cow. So if you want to reduce your blood pressure, you touch the tail of the cow, and you will be surprised that in earlier times we used to take the tail and touch our head. And when I saw it in the villages, I was wondering why are they doing it. But today I know the meaning and reason behind it. Then the cow's presence was considered most auspicious. So that is the reason in earlier times cows were gifted to the rishis or gifted to the farmers, and that was considered as the best wealth for any family. So now you can imagine that because we have so many benefits of cows, we consider that as auspicious.
So, coming back to culture and lifestyle, how modern is this Sanatan Dharam?
Uh, Frankly, Sanatan Dharma means which changes with times and which is always there. For example, just because we have got TV, computers, and phones, we have not started eating them, right? Then we have internet and we have other stuff in our life, but it doesn't mean we have stopped writing to our family or using papers. We are still using it. Then we have cars to travel with, but that doesn't mean that car was there thousands of years back and how we were not traveling earlier. We used to travel. So that way, if you see that our body and our requirement hasn't changed, maybe the means, the way we connect to the world has changed. If you have internet on your phone, it is up to you to decide what you want to see. So if you want to connect with spiritualism, you get that. But if you want to connect to only violence, you will see that on your phone. So you can imagine that no matter what modern equipments we add to our life, or we change, or we so-called evolve, our basic requirement is not going to change. We are still going to give birth to a child. We are going to get married. We are going to eat same food from the same farms. We will not start eating tablets, and we are not going to start eating other of our furniture. So if you see, our basic requirements are just the same. So our original lifestyle, the way it was, the more we follow in modern times, the better it is. Because first of all, we have so many diseases, and they all are related to lifestyle mostly. Then we have so much of stress that is again related to our work and other external forces. Now that can be resolved only with the help of relationships and what we do in our personal life. So there our dharma or our scriptures helps. Then we have problems of health. As you can see that people are wealthy but not healthy. The reason behind is that we are running after accumulating wealth so much that we forget on health. So again, the health is achieved only through Ayurveda or good food, or the way our principles are there about food, being vegetarian and all that. So if you see, this modern time requires that lifestyle much more than ever before, because for us in today's time, this is the best solution we have.
Excellent. So, here's to changing times. See you in the next episode. This was Hindu Sanskriti with Vishali Shah. I'm your host, Harleen Jabal.